Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Just a quick follow-up to the conversation we were having yesterday about light heavies and cruisers deciding that they're going to fight at heavy, right? Let me just say, Andre Ward is 6 feet tall. People need to look it up, compare his height and his weight to Floyd Patterson from the 1950s. Keep in mind, you had bigger heavyweight champions before then. Look at Joe Louis's size, for example, right? You get to the 1950s, and of course, the big guys just couldn't move as fluidly, move as well, move as quickly as the smaller, faster Floyd Patterson, right? People would be surprised, too, to know that Sonny Liston was only 6'1", right? Look at the size of Jack Dempsey. Folks, you had huge heavyweights, I mean huge heavyweights, around Jack Dempsey's era. Look at Frippo, a guy who Dempsey beat, for example. A guy who knocked Dempsey out of the ring. Dempsey had to get back in the ring to win that fight. In fact, look at the guy who beats Jack Johnson for the heavyweight title, right? Big lumbering guy, forget his name, live video, right? Big lumbering guy. And my point to you is Dempsey comes along, he's too fast, too fluid for these big guys who are lugging around, you know, 220, 230, 240, 250 pounds of themselves, right? Of course, I mentioned Primo Carnera in an earlier video. Understand, too, much of what you're seeing is an illusion, right? These guys are heavier than they appear at weigh-ins. Just think about the guys who we know lose a lot of weight for weigh-ins, right? Canelo, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., right? We don't know how big Andre Ward is when he's not losing weight to make weight at a weigh-in, right? All you're seeing is the weigh-in weight. You really don't know how big the guys are otherwise. Also, consider the fact that the way things are today might not be the end point of evolution. It might be a snapshot, right? Sports is just like investing in stocks. There are going to be times where there are bubbles, right? Just like we know right now in cryptocurrency, that there are more cryptocurrencies out there that are going to survive, right? You're going to have, over time, some cryptocurrencies fail. You're going to have what they call creative destruction taking place, right? Same thing with the heavyweights. Just because you see a bunch of big guys out there, how do you know that they aren't vulnerable to smaller, more athletic, faster moving, more fluid guys who might be hard to hit, right? People forget, too, when Mike Tyson came along, you had the Tony Tuckers of the world. You had the Trevor Burbecks of the world. You had the Razor Ruddicks of the world. You had a bunch of big guys out there, right? They couldn't handle Tyson's hand speed. They couldn't handle Tyson's movement, right? They couldn't find Mike Tyson. Part of boxing is finding and hurting your opponent, right? A small guy who can get low. Look at how Marciano used to fight, right? A small guy who can get low could get underneath the hot zone, the power zone of a bigger opponent, right? So just think it through. Don't think for a second that because everyone is big in boxing today, that's the way things have evolved, right? We could be in a bubble era. Let's shift gears to the gamblers out there. There's a fight that intrigues me. It's a big fight coming up in Poland. that I think gamblers need to be aware of. Right? It's Masternak, the guy who gave Tony Bellew all he could handle. Right? It's Masternak against Ismael Sillah. You might remember him for getting destroyed a few years ago by Sergey Kovalev. Right? Now, in my opinion, put this fight in 2 sentences. If a boxing match breaks out, if it's boxing, I don't see how Masternak can hang with Sillah. I think Sillah is the far better boxer. Right now, even though Sillah has a WBO Asia Pacific Cruiserweight title, believe it or not, right now, he's a 5-to-1 underdog. Right? 5-to-1 underdog. But understand, there is a big hole, I mean a huge hole, in Sillah's game. And it's his chin. Right? When he gets hit, the lights go out. Right? His body short circuits. He doesn't even look coordinated. Right? When he goes down hard. Right? This is a guy who just isn't wired to take big shots. So the bet I'm recommending here is to take the underdog simply to win. Folks, you're being compensated for the risk. He's a 5-to-1 underdog. Hedged with Masternak by KO. Masternak has an excellent short chopping right hand. Right? He has a pretty good left hook too, but he likes to get on his front foot. He likes to time it. He can throw that chopping right hand either as a lead punch or as a counter punch. And there's a height gap in this fight. Right? Sillah is 6'3". Maybe one of the reasons he had a weak chin was he was draining himself at 6'3" to fight at 175. This fight's at cruiser, 200-pound limit. Right? Sillah is 6'3" and can fight long, can use length, knows how to work behind a jab. Whereas Masternak is only 6 feet tall. Now against Bellew, Masternak was willing to take punishment to land shots. With Sillah, don't let the smooth taste fool you. He looks smooth. He looks like he's not overexerting himself. His balance is such that his shots are power shots. Right? Either Sillah is able to keep Masternak at distance and decimate him, or Masternak is going to get inside and do the decimating. Right? I think it's an intriguing fight, very intriguing fight. Right? I don't believe the favorite is defensively blessed. Masternak got hit with several bombs. In the Bellew fight, for example, several bombs. I believe Sillah is going to have an opportunity to land some shots. Right? So I like Sillah, the underdog, at 5-to-1. To win the fight, I'll hedge the play with Masternak by KO. Understand, if you're getting Masternak by KO at anything better than a -500, you profit if either happens. Masternak gets the KO or he loses the fight. Right? But understand the risk involved. If Masternak, and the fight's in Poland, if Masternak goes the distance and gets a decision, you lose it all. Right? Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Let me add one more thing too. In talking about weight gains, and here, by the way, weight gaining is commonplace in boxing. Take this fight. Sillah is coming up, has fought, in fact has won a minor share of the cruiserweight title, right? A regional cruiserweight title. But you look at him and he's coming up from light heavy, 25 pounds lower. Right? My point to you is that some of these guys actually do better at the higher weight. Think Bernard Hopkins. He loses twice to Jermaine Taylor at middleweight. Then on his way out, he decides to model himself after Sugar Ray Robinson, right? Robinson, right before he retires the first time, had he stayed retired, there's no question on who the best fighter in history is, right? Robinson decided, okay, I'm going to fight the light heavyweight champion, right? 160 jumped to 175. Bernard Hopkins decided, and you had a damn good light heavyweight champion at the time, Antonio Tarver. Bernard Hopkins decides, okay, I faded at middle, let me just gain 15 pounds and fight Antonio Tarver. You know the rest. That's when we get the second half of the Bernard Hopkins career. He wins the light heavyweight title, and keep in mind, 15 pounds, just do the percentages, right? 15 pounds added to 160 is a significant addition had he started at 175, right? And you know, Hopkins in interviews talked about how he felt much stronger at 175 because he stopped draining himself. He actually had 15 pounds to work with. He was able to have dessert. His body was able to nourish itself. So he then goes on at 175, right, to beat Jean Pascal, right? Just think it through. This is later in his career. Well, I've heard comments from some of you saying, hey, Andre Ward is too old at 34 to move up in weight. Now keep in mind, at 34, he's still younger than Luis Ortiz, than Vladimir Klitschko, than Shannon Briggs, than Freza Kendo, than Lucas Brown, right? There's several elite heavyweights out there, or at least guys who they're telling us are elite, right? Because Freza Kendo was to fight Shannon Briggs for a version of the heavyweight title that Andre Ward's younger than. You also don't realize the sacrifice that an Andre Ward has to make weight at 175. Don't be fooled by the fact that he was fighting at 168 because you don't know the sacrifices he had to make to get down to 168. Right? So my point is simply, don't just focus on the heavyweight division, look around a bit. Here you have Ismael Sillah, literally about to fight 25 pounds more than he fought against Sergey Kovalev, right? And he's already been successful at cruiser because he is the reigning WBO Asia Pacific Cruiserweight title holder, right? To sum up, I like Sillah, 5-1 underdog. To win this fight, I'll hedge the play with Masternak by KO. Just understand, if Masternak gets the KO, you're good, because that's part of your hedge. If Masternak wins by decision, you lose it all. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. The site is intended for gamblers. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.